Ever walked into a bank and seen someone just emptying an ATM, like just standing there and money's pouring out?
No, I can't say I have.
It's crazy, right? But that's exactly what happened with this group called Carbanak. They hit over 100 banks. 30 countries stole $1 billion.
It's insane. And you know the wildest part? They never even set foot in most of those banks.
Yeah, we're not talking about guys with guns and masks here. This is all digital. This is cybercrime at its most sophisticated.
Exactly. And that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. I mean, we've got a true crime podcast episode here that breaks down the whole story, plus some expert commentary to really dig into the how and why of it all.
Yeah, this isn't just about what they did, but how they did it. And you know what's even crazier? They're still out there. Carbanak is still active today.
It's kind of like a virus, right? You think you've contained it, but then it mutates and comes back even stronger.
Okay, so before we get ahead of ourselves, let's rewind back to the beginning. Our sources describe this super bizarre incident in Ukraine.
Ah, yes, the ghost ATM incident.
Okay, yeah, that's one way to put it. So there's this security footage of a guy just standing near an ATM, not touching it, nothing. But suddenly it starts spitting out cash.
Like magic,
Right.
But of course it wasn't magic. It was something far more sinister.
It's like something out of a movie.
Exactly. But the reality is even more mind-blowing than fiction. Because when you think about the security measures banks have in place, it's truly remarkable that Carbanak was able to pull this off.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, we're talking layers upon layers of defenses, right?
Absolutely. They've got these segmented networks to isolate sensitive data monitoring systems, tracking every transaction, anti-fraud measures designed to catch any suspicious activity. The fact that Carbanak could even penetrate these systems is a testament to their skill and sophistication.
Okay, so how did they actually get in? Like, what was their point of entry?
Well, believe it or not, it all started with something incredibly simple. Phishing emails.
Seriously, those things still work. I get those all the time. Like, you've won a free cruise.
Yeah, well, the ones Carbanak used were a bit more sophisticated. They targeted bank employees specifically, often disguised as official communications from clients or internal departments. You know, something that would look completely legitimate.
So they tricked bank employees into giving up their passwords and login info.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
They used social engineering tactics to get IT staff to reveal their admin credentials. And once they had those, it was game over. They basically had the keys to the kingdom.
And here's where things get really interesting, right? Because once they were inside, they didn't just go on a spending spree. They were incredibly patient. They went into stealth mode.
Oh, absolutely. They took their time. They spent months just observing and learning the systems, mapping out the network, identifying high-value targets, like a thief casing a joint before making their move.
Yeah, they basically became invisible ghosts in the system.
Right. They were watching everything, learning the routines, mimicking normal employee behavior, so they wouldn't raise any red flags.
Precisely. It was a long con.
Yeah.
A masterpiece of patience and planning. So they had access, but what exactly were they after? I mean, a bank's a pretty big target. Where do you even begin stealing $1 billion?
Well, they had two main methods for siphoning off the cash, and both were pretty ingenious in their own way.
Okay, lay it on me.
First, they'd take control of the ATMs, like literally send commands for them to dispense cash at specific times.
Okay, so like those money mules we've heard about.
Exactly.
Yep.
Waiting at the machine, ready to collect the loot. It's like that scene in Ukraine we talked about.
Yeah.
But their second method, that's where things get really interesting.
All right, so we've got shadowy figures lurking near ATMs, grabbing cash. That's classic heist movie stuff. What's next level?
Imagine playing a video game and you use a cheat code to like multiply your money.
Yeah,
Right.
sure.
Well, Carbanak did something similar in real life.
Yeah.
They figured out how to manipulate the bank's accounting system, inflate account balances, and then siphon off the excess without leaving a trace in the transaction logs. It's like they hacked reality itself.
Hold on, are you serious? They used a video game cheat code to steal from actual banks?
It sounds crazy, right? But it's true. There's this program called Art Money the video game cheaters use to mess with in-game currency. Carbanak essentially applied that same logic to the real world. It just goes to show, sometimes the most creative solutions come from the most unexpected places.
So we've got ATMs spitting out cash and digital money multipliers. Like, how much are we talking about here?
The numbers are absolutely mind-boggling. Up to $12 million per day, totaling around $1 billion.
$1 billion.
It was and still is the largest cyber bank robbery in history. But like any good heist story, there's a twist, a tiny little error that brought the whole thing crashing down.
Wait, so you're saying like a coding mistake?
Yep. Security researchers discovered this small coding error in Carbanak. It wasn't much, but it allowed them to ping the command server's location. Think of it like a tiny crack in their armor.
So they left a digital trail, and that led investigators to them.
It led them to a server in the Netherlands. Dutch police seized it, and for a while it seemed like Carbanak had gone dark. But the story doesn't end there.
There's more.
Oh yeah, remember those money mules we talked about? Well, their part in all of this takes a rather bizarre turn.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more.
So in 2016 in Taiwan, there was this elderly man. He unknowingly stumbled right into the middle of the Carbanak operation.
Hold on. How does an elderly man in Taiwan get mixed up with a global cybercrime ring?
It was pure chance, really. He was taking his wife home from work late one night. It was pouring rain, but they stopped at an ATM to get some cash. That's when he noticed these two guys acting suspiciously near the machine.
Okay, that does sound a bit shady.
He saw one guy outside, another inside, both wearing sunglasses, hats, and masks. Now, this might seem unusual, but wearing masks was already pretty common in parts of Asia, especially during flu season.
Right, makes sense. So what happened next?
Well, the two guys at the ATM were Carbonac's money mules. They were there to collect the cash.
Yeah.
But when the elderly man showed up, they panicked and ran off. In their haste, they left a bag of cash, 60,000 Taiwanese dollars, stuck right there in the ATM.
Wow. Talk about a rookie mistake. So what did the elderly man do?
He did the right thing. He called the police. And because of all the other ATM incidents, the Taiwanese authorities were on high alert. They launched a massive manhunt, 500 officers combing through security footage. They eventually tracked down a group of Eastern Europeans, including Russians, staying at a hotel.
So they finally had some solid leads.
Yeah, but only 3 of the suspects were still in Taiwan. One of them, a Latvian named Andreas Paregodas, saw himself on TV and knew the game was up. So he grabbed 2 duffel bags stuffed with cash from the ATMs, hiked up a hill, and stashed them there. He even wrote down the GPS coordinates.
He wrote down the coordinates. Why not just take the money and run?
It seems he was hoping to retrieve it later. Maybe he thought he could lay low and come back for it once things calmed down. Whatever his plan was, he went into hiding in the Taiwanese countryside.
Not exactly the best hiding spot for a European guy. Did they catch him?
Oh, of course. The police found him pretty quickly and made him lead them to his stash. But there was a problem. Only one of the duffel bags was there.
Wait a minute, what happened to the other bag?
That's where things get even weirder. 2 days later, a local man named Mr. K was walking along a trail and stumbled upon 2 duffel bags.
Okay, this is getting too strange. 2 duffel bags just appear out of thin air.
Well, not exactly out of thin air. But Mr. K had no idea where they came from. He opened them, saw they were full of cash, and took one of the bags home.
I can't believe he just took it. What was he thinking?
That's a classic dilemma, right? What would you do if you found a duffel bag full of money? But then Mr. K saw the news reports about the missing money and realized what he'd stumbled upon. He freaked out and went straight to the police station to turn it in.
Well, good for him. At least he did the right thing in the end.
He did. But his good deed didn't go unpunished. He ended up with a 2-year suspended sentence for handling stolen property.
Wow, that's rough. So what about the other 2 money mules?
They decided to try their luck. One of them stashed 2 more bags of cash in a train station locker. The other mule went to collect them, but the police were waiting. They arrested him at the locker and then caught the other 2 mules enjoying a leisurely lunch at their hotel.
So the whole operation was falling apart.
Yep, and on the mules' phones, the police found messages from their mysterious boss nicknamed Katana. And guess where Katana was living the high life? Sunny Spain.
Spain! That's quite a jump from Taiwan and Ukraine. So who was this Katana? Some kind of criminal mastermind.
Katana turned out to be Denis Tokarenko, a Russian who had moved to Spain with his family in 2015. Right around the time Carbanak pulled off their billion-dollar heist.
And I'm guessing he wasn't exactly living a modest lifestyle.
Not at all.
Right.
Luxury cars, a mountain of cash literally under his mattress. And get this, he had so much money that he kept hacking banks just for the thrill of it.
Wait, seriously? He was already a millionaire. Why keep risking it all?
It seems the allure of the game was too strong. He enjoyed the challenge, the adrenaline rush, the feeling of outsmarting the system.
So how did they finally catch him?
The police had been tapping his phone, and eventually they had enough evidence to make an arrest. They found jewelry cash and a staggering 15,000 bitcoins.
15,000 bitcoins. That's worth a fortune.
It was a massive haul. In the end, the Carbanak crew got what they deserved. Prison sentences ranging from 4 to 10 years. But here's the kicker. Even with their leaders behind bars, Carbanak didn't disappear.
You're kidding me. They're still out there.
According to the security researcher who helped crack the case, Carbanak simply fragmented into smaller groups. They adapted, evolved, and continue their criminal activities.
So it's like a hydra. You cut off one head and two more grow back.
Exactly. It highlights the resilience and adaptability of cybercrime. It's like trying to eradicate a virus that keeps mutating. You can develop a vaccine for one strain, but there's always another variant waiting in the wings.
So if Carbanak can morph and survive, what hope do the rest of us have? Can we ever truly be safe online?
It's a daunting thought for sure, but there are things we can do to protect ourselves. It's not about becoming cybersecurity experts overnight. It's about taking practical steps to minimize our risk.
Okay, so let's get practical. What can we do to boost our own cybersecurity?
The first line of defense is always strong passwords. And I can't stress this enough. Use two-factor authentication whenever possible.
Two-factor authentication. That's where you get a code sent to your phone or email to confirm it's really you logging in.
Right. It adds that extra layer of security, makes it a lot harder for someone to get into your accounts.
Got it. What else? I'm all ears.
Be cautious about clicking on links or opening attachments in emails, especially if you don't recognize the sender. Something seems fishy. It's better to be safe than sorry.
So no more clicking on those "you've won a free cruise" emails.
Probably a good idea. And keep your software and devices updated. Those updates often include security patches that address known vulnerabilities.
Right. Makes sense. And I guess using separate cards or accounts for online purchases isn't a bad idea either.
That's a smart move.
Yeah.
It helps to limit the potential damage if one of your accounts gets compromised. Think of it like diversifying your portfolio. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Yeah, that's a good analogy. We talk about cybercrime like it's this abstract thing, but when you hear a story like Carbonac's, it suddenly feels very real, very close to home.
Absolutely. Cybercrime affects everyone. Individuals, businesses, governments. It's a global issue that requires a global effort to address.
And it's not going away anytime soon.
Unfortunately, no. As long as there's a potential for profit, cyber criminals will keep finding new ways to exploit vulnerabilities.
Okay, so before we wrap up, I have one more question that's been bugging me. In all the coverage of Carbanak, they never really explain who these guys were. I mean, what kind of person dedicates their life to stealing billions of dollars through a computer screen?
That's a question that's fascinated cybersecurity experts and law enforcement for years. There's no single profile of a cybercriminal. They can be individuals, organized groups, even state-sponsored actors. Their motivations can range from financial gain to political activism to simple curiosity.
So it's not like there's a cybercrime academy out there churning out these digital masterminds.
While there are definitely resources available on the dark web, their paths to this world are as diverse as the individuals themselves. Some might be driven by a desire for power or control, others by a sense of rebellion against authority. Some might even see it as a form of intellectual challenge.
So it's a real puzzle trying to understand their mindset.
Exactly, and that's what makes cybercrime such a challenging and constantly evolving field. It's a constant race to stay ahead of the curve, to understand not just the technical aspects of these attacks, but also the human element that drives them.
It really makes you wonder what's next. What new threats are lurking out there in the digital shadows?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The one thing we can be certain of is that cybercriminals are always adapting, evolving, seeking new ways to exploit our vulnerabilities. It's a cat-and-mouse game that never ends.
Well, that's both exciting and terrifying at the same time. So as we reach the end of our Carbanak deep dive, what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I'd say the biggest takeaway is that knowledge is power. The more you understand about cybercrime, the better equipped you'll be to protect yourself. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and never underestimate the power of a good password.
Great advice. For all the fancy tech and sophisticated methods involved, it seems like a lot of these cyber heists boil down to simple greed.
It's true. The allure of easy money is definitely a powerful motivator. But there's also a sense of power that comes with manipulating systems and outsmarting security measures. It's like solving a complex puzzle with real-world consequences.
But as we've seen with Carbanak, even the best-laid plans can go wrong, and the consequences can be pretty severe.
Absolutely. The Carbanak case is a stark reminder that actions in the digital world have real-world repercussions. You can't hide behind a screen forever.
Well, after this deep dive, I'm definitely double-checking my online security. New passwords, two-factor authentication, the whole 9 yards.
Those are all great steps in the right direction. But remember, cybersecurity is an ongoing process. It's not a one-time fix. You have to stay informed and adapt to the evolving threat landscape.
So how do we stay ahead of the curve? Any resources you recommend?
There are some fantastic organizations out there that provide valuable information and guidance. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, is a great one. They have tons of resources on cybersecurity best practices. And the SANS Institute is another excellent source. They offer training and certifications for security professionals.
So there's help out there if you know where to look.
Exactly. And don't forget about podcasts like this one. We try to break down these complex topics and make them accessible to everyone.
Well said. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of Carbanak. It's been a wild ride, but an important one. Remember, in the game of cybersecurity, we all have a role to play. Stay safe out there,